Good evening. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Herboso here in the Fox 10 Gulfstream room. Happy to join you for this later edition of Next Weather on this Thursday. We thank you for joining us on the Fox 10 Gulfstream and on our Fox 10 Facebook pages as well. This one's going to be an interesting one as we are in Hurricane Preparedness Week. Wanted to give you some reminders about hurricane season, specifically focusing on one specific topic, which is storm surge. A couple of useful things, some reminders, some things that we expect with storm surge. All of that will be discussed, plus a look at your forecast over the next few days. So we thank you for joining us. Let's get right to it. These are the storm names for our 2025 hurricane season. Andrea is the first name on the list, Wendy being the last one. Imelda is the I storm. Of course, we typically keep an eye on the I storm. That's been a strong one recently over the past few years. Really no crazy pronunciations for our names this year. Chantal, Dexter, Aaron, Ferdinand, Gabrielle, Humberto, Imelda. Some of them have a little bit of a Spanish flair to them, but these names are reused every 6 years here, so this is a list that we have seen before. But we're not talking about the names this year. We're talking about something different. We're talking about storm surge. Storm surge, a quick reminder for you, is simply the rise of water as a result of a hurricane. What happens is the hurricane winds push water, pile water up against the shoreline, and eventually it rises, and that push inland is a part of the storm surge. We talk about storm surge a lot in terms of feet above ground level if you were standing right at the beach. That's the way I like to explain it. Everybody has a slightly different explanation of it. But if I were standing on the beach and we had a 12-foot storm surge, that would be 12 foot above my head if I were right on the water line, the normal water line. You see 12 feet above normal sea level in this graphic. Kind of gives you an idea of what numbers we're looking at. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to show you some of the maps that we have used previously. And I'm going to walk through them and actually explain what I mean with each graphic map. If you are new to some of our storm surge maps and how we express storm surge on television, show it on television, hopefully this will be some useful information. So first of all, a lot of people ask around here, well, we won't get storm surge unless we're on the right side of the storm. And when I say right, I mean right side of the storm, literally. And that is somewhat true. A lot of times storm surge has to do with the direction of travel of the storm, approach angle, strength, and which side of the storm you're on. A lot of times you're going to hear people say the right side of the storm is the dirty side of the storm, especially if the storm, let's say in this case, east and west here, the storm is moving west onto land from the water. The right side of this storm, if the direction of movement is towards the land, the right side of this storm is going to be worse because that is the onshore flow side. Typically, based on direction of movement, the right side of the storm is the worse side because of an onshore flow that the storm has. Another thing interesting with the right side of the storm typically is it's with the direction of movement of the storm. If your storm is moving in a direction, the right side of the storm is with that, and therefore the wind speeds on that right side of the storm amplified by the storm motion. So a long story short, and getting rid of all the technicalities, typically your right side of the storm is worse because of that combination of slightly stronger winds, that onshore flow which causes the storm surge, and there's typically a higher tornado threat on the right side of the storm. One interesting thing, if you are on the left side of the storm, in this case the south side on this map, but if you're on the left side of the storm, you would actually get a reverse surge. So you see what's happening here on this graphic. The offshore flow side actually has water pushed out versus the onshore side, which has water pushing in. So it's kind of a great thing to think about And this is not something to make decisions based off of whenever a hurricane is coming, but it's a good thing to remember. If it looks like a storm is going to make landfall to your west here on the Gulf Coast, that means you're probably going to be on that right eastern side, the worst side. You're probably going to have some water rise near the coast. So something to remember there for sure. Here's some summary things. This was actually a graphic that we ended up showing during Hurricane Helene and a couple other storms last year. And this is a good graphic to pull back out because it talks about a worst case scenario for storm surge in places that would expect dire storm surge, significant storm surge. In storm surge, of course, the impact large areas, typically that are land, covered with deep seawater, Gulf water in our case, due to the storm surge flooding. That's what's happening. That seawater, that ocean water, is getting pushed on land depending on where you are. This typically causes significant damage. The power of the water is immense. Major damage will be to marinas, boardwalks, piers, beach houses typically see significant damage as well. Large sections of roads can be washed out or severely flooded, really washed out. What happens is the road surface may lift and start floating and under the force of the water. We have seen that many a time. For those that have homes near the beach that are on stilts, you have to be very careful. Now, the homes are on stilts for a good reason, and that can account for a large number, a high number for storm surge in feet. But if that exceeds the base of the house, that's on stilts, you're going to start getting water that pushes up on the bottom floor of the house and actually can lift the house off of its stilts. So something to remember for those coastal areas. In a significant enough surge, even houses that are raised can see issues. So just kind of really interesting and really notable impacts possible, significant impacts possible from storm surge. That's why it's the most dangerous thing that a hurricane can cause. Of course, significant structural buildings to damage with some washing away, talking about that, of course, with homes that are on stilts and such. Locations may be uninhabitable for a period. We think back to major storms like I think Hurricane Laura, that was a decent while ago now, but in the Lake Charles area. Cameron Parish, which was, of course, the coastal parish in southwestern Louisiana, parts of it you just couldn't get back to. It was so bad. The storm surge was so significant there, and it was just a wasteland afterward, after the storm had passed. And that typically happens in the cases of worst case scenario storm surge. Think of the Mississippi Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina as well. Driving down 90 didn't exist in sunspots. So that's why storm surge has the potential to be such a significant thing. One thing to note about storm surge, it really does have to do with many factors. Storm strength is key, but also storm size plays a massive role. The size of the wind field of the storm can play a massive role. I want to look back. This was Hurricane Milton back in 2024, so last year. This was one of the graphics that we showed. This was a slightly smaller storm, but still, because it was so powerful, it caused quite the impact in terms of storm surge. I want to explain this map because I feel like it gets confused a lot. So this is a sample from last year's forecast from Hurricane Milton. This graphic that we show, called peak storm surge, we line this up and we get this information from the National Hurricane Center. This is a National Hurricane Center forecast. You will see this on Fox 10 whenever there's a hurricane approaching that has a potential for doing storm surge. We will show this graphic, peak storm surge. And what this is saying is if I am standing on the beach at the water line in that 10 to 15 foot zone. So I am on the beach, on the water line, where the sand meets the water. If I am standing right there, pretty much at the sea level, if you will, my maximum potential for storm surge, water rise, where I'm standing would be 10 to 15 feet. That is not saying that from the water line that the surf will move in, the water will move in 15 feet. It is saying that the water will move up 15 feet. That is also not accounting for waves. That is not accounting for, that is just a straight up water rise, 15 feet right at the coast. So that is what this graphic is telling you. So those places, like in Hurricane Milton's case, we knew that there was the possibility that 8 to 12 feet of water rise was possible there. That's what this graphic was saying. That actually wasn't realized, thankfully, with Hurricane Milton, but it was close. So that's what this graphic shows. Think about standing at the beach. That's the water level rise that you could possibly see. Now I'm going to switch graphics to something that is a little more informative and a little more specific. This is a potential storm surge graphic that was recently released. We started doing this a few years ago, and it is extremely high resolution. Now, I can't zoom in on this map because this is a screenshot of an old one. But what you see there is that you see multiple colors. And what this is showing is based on the worst case scenario storm surge forecast. Based on the worst case scenario, what you're looking at, and I'll zoom in for you, is based on your point on a map, what is the water above ground level? What possible water is there above ground level? So you see portions of Port Charlotte there. I wish I could zoom out on this, but portions of Port Charlotte there, right on the water. We were expecting 9 or more feet above ground level. If you were standing on the ground, even if you were away from the coast, still above 9 feet. If you go into Port Charlotte, it was more like 3 to 6 feet. So we were expecting in downtown Port Charlotte 3 to 6 feet of water. That is because the water from the Gulf would have pushed in, and from the bay there would have pushed in that much. So this is a really, really cool map because you can actually zoom in, find your home, and figure out how much water rise you could see from storm surge. This map, interesting to note, is not accounting for waves, of course. So there was waves on top of this as well. And it is not accounting for rainfall flooding, freshwater flooding. This is only storm surge flooding. But this is a great map, and typically what we will do during hurricanes, and we did this a little during Hurricane Francine last year, we take this map, we'll show it on Fox 10, and we will zoom all the way in. We have the capability with our map system to zoom all the way in and show a street by street view of this map and this forecast. Again, it's a worst case scenario forecast, so it's going to make it look worse than it could possibly be, but still it gives you a great tool. That is, again, different from our previous map. This was the overall peak storm surge, if I were sitting right at the coast, versus a more detailed map that shows you an above ground level shot of it. That's the way I like to explain the storm surge. It gets confused often, but understanding these two maps that we show can really help you out in your decision making whenever it comes to a storm. So again, our peak storm surge is more the overall worst case scenario right at the beach. What's the water rise? Versus this, which is the above ground level, which is a map that you can actually zoom in, find your location, and see, hey, will you be impacted by this? And this map as well uses GIS data. It uses the geography. It uses the terrain to figure out what the water above ground level will be based on that water rise. So, and I'll say this, kind of explain this a different way. That red area is 9+ feet above ground level. So some places it could be higher. Let's say we have a 10-foot surge here in this, the Port Charlotte area, as I'm showing as an example from Hurricane Milton. A 10-foot surge, all of those red areas could have that 9 foot or higher. And then as you go inland, your land rises, so that water above land level, above ground level, gets lower. So kind of a complicated thing to explain, but this is a really helpful map for us during hurricane season, and you will see us show it during hurricane season. So once again, Hurricane Preparedness Week, we try to go over some of these things, get you aware, get you familiar with these things. We'll try to explain it more. We have a hurricane special coming up as well the first week or two of June, and you'll be able to check that out and get more information. We'll talk about storm surge. We'll talk about all of these things. So there's your list of names. Again, a quick little review there storm surge ahead of our 2025 hurricane season. Real quick, let's go ahead and talk about some current weather stuff. We had some pretty nasty thunderstorms in Okaloosa County earlier. Those have moved out of our area at this point. It's still very warm, 81 degrees right now. Let's look at the live radar. Those storms are out of Covington County now. That's well out of our Fox 10 viewing area. The radar is clear at this point. There's those storms. One near the Troy area at this point, trumping some heavy rain and the possibility of hail. The wider shot, one thing that you can see in the Gulf, south of Louisiana and Texas, a big complex of showers and storms. That is our next weather maker, and that's going to be moving in overnight tonight into tomorrow. In fact, I really think that tomorrow afternoon is when we really see the onset of the rain. Tomorrow morning, you'll notice you'll wake up to more cloud cover. You will wake up to a lot more cloud cover tomorrow morning, the scattered showers around. Then here we go. Rain coverage significantly increases in the afternoon hours. Some heavier thunderstorms are possible. There is a marginal severe weather risk. There's 6 p.m. on Friday. Could see a couple thunderstorms out there. And this is as the low pressure system rolls across our area as well. So kind of the combination of everything. And the showers continue into Friday night, eventually dissipating probably by later in the morning on Saturday. We'll start to get a break, and then we'll have to watch on Saturday afternoon. See, there's 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. More showers develop. So that late morning time frame on Saturday, the rain chances will start to go down, and then in the afternoon, we'll bump back up with afternoon heating. So be ready for a very unsettled second half of the day on Friday. Pretty much rain chances floor almost up to 100%, very high, especially around that 4, 5, 6 o'clock hour. If you have Friday evening plans, be ready for the rain. This continues with spotty showers into Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, we have another healthy shot of rain. And then Sunday, we could see more rain showers out there. Right now, we have 70, 60, 50. Those numbers could be adjusted, especially depending on where you are. So just keep that in mind. Should start to see clearing conditions on Monday with just lingering showers. By Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we switch gears and go from talking about rainy conditions to hot conditions. It gets really hot towards the end of next week into next weekend, where temperatures go up to near 90 degrees. So quite a pattern change there. Not as active rain-wise, but definitely getting hotter there. So that's the summary in your forecast here on Next Weather. We thank you for joining us here on our Facebook chat and much more. Be sure to check out Fox 10 News tonight at 9 p.m. We'll have more details on this forecast as we head into Mother's Day weekend.